So this is the demo for the lateral incisor, maxillary permanent lateral incisor, and this is how you have to divide the crown and the root. So I'm putting these lines to divide the crown from the root. Okay, so this is the line. Okay, now we have to divide we have to make some part for the root as well. So I am creating this line all around for the root. Now after this step, I'll show you some diagram how to do or how to go about it. The first time I'm recording something, so I'm finding it little difficult to handle things on my own. So the lines are going here and there. Okay, so that is about the crown, the root and the base. Okay, now we have to label the surfaces. Now I'm going to label this as labial, this as distal, and this as palatal. I'm going by order, and this as the mesial. Okay, this step, first step is over. Okay, now we'll check into the diagrams what we have to do. Now before you start with the carving, check for the labial aspect. So on the labial aspect, you draw a midline to some extent. This is enough, and it should be visible only to you. Don't make a groove. Okay, now coming to the first step, can you see the step here? What you have to do is you have to draw the midline, and according to the mesiodistal width at cervix and at crown, you mark those points for the lateral incisor. It should be less than that of the central incisor. So once you mark these 4 points, you're going to draw imaginary lines here, and this is the excess what you have to reduce labio-palatally. So till the palatal area you have to cut it down. Okay, and this is the resultant of it. So you get a trapezoid like appearance where there is no wax on either sides, that is on the mesial and distal sides. So this is what we are going to create now. The first step, so I'm marking these 2 points here. Now keep it a little bigger so that when you reduce, so it should come to the actual dimensions. Okay, keep it slightly bigger. Mark these lines from here till here. I'm unable to see this. There is no proper lighting actually. Yeah, I have to sit like this. Probably I might get some light. Yeah, okay. 1 second, I'll just change the position. I'll just change the position. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Sorry. So can you see the lines here? On either sides you have, on mesial and distal sides, we have marked the outlines. So this part of the wax has to be reduced. So I'll be reducing it. So what you do is, from this top, draw lines onto the posterior part, that is onto the palatal part, like this. okay, so that you'll get an idea. The whole thing has to be reduced. So I'm going to reduce it accordingly. Okay, you can see that on one side it has been reduced labio-palatally. The same thing has to be done on the other side. If I see into the recording, I will be unable to do it. So maybe a little hazy. I'll finish the work. You know what to do. I mean, it's visible now. Maybe slightly blurred, but I think you will catch it up. Now you can clearly make out according to the diagram we have drawn. Can you see that? That is the resultant. I'm keeping adjacent to that. The first step is over. Now coming to the second step. You have to turn the block towards the mesial or distal surface like this. Okay, the labial on one side and palatal on, depending on your comfort. Okay, now what you have to do is you have to mark the midline again on the mesiodistal aspect. 1 millimeter ahead to hit marker point. Okay, now you have to divide the crown both on the palatal and the labial side into 3 compartments. This is the incisal compartment, this is the middle third, this is the cervical third. So likewise, incisal, middle and cervical third. Okay, now we consider only the cervical third junction, this one. Okay, this we have to draw an imaginary line to the point which is 1 millimeter ahead of the midline, and from the palatal aspect the same point, that is the junction between cervical and middle third, has to be joined to the midline. So 1 millimeter gap of wax is required here. Okay, and later what we do is we have to adjust this width according to the textbook measurements, which is less as compared to the central incisor. So mark those points, cut it vertically and readjust this line back to this position. Okay, so height of contour, this is the height of contour. Okay, this should not be shifted to anywhere above the cervical third region. Okay, otherwise the look of the tooth will be totally different. Okay, it can't be accepted, it can't be submitted, so you have to make some corrections in it. Okay, so the ultimate result will be, see, we have cut this, we have cut it according to the lines drawn. So we have 1 millimeter width here on the incisal edge. Okay, so this is what you have to get, a tent shape. Okay, the steps are same with the central incisor. There are certain modifications which I have already discussed with you people. What are the modifications? Only those modifications have to be slightly, you have to be careful regarding that, or you have to slightly overdo it. not like central incisor. You have to overdo in the lateral incisors. Okay, I'll tell you step by step, so we'll finish that. So we'll go into the second step. So that is, I have turned the block to the mesial or distal sides. So this is the mesial side. Okay, can you see the M? Yes, that is the mesial side. I'm drawing the midline here just for the reference. Okay, I'm putting a point just 1 millimeter ahead of the midline. This is the point. Now, can you see that point here? Okay, that is the point. And we have to divide the crown into 3 compartments. This is the cervical third. Okay, I'm not holding the instrument properly, unable to do it. Anyway, this is the cervical third, this is the middle third, and incisal third. Okay, 3 compartments. Can you see that? Yes. The same thing has to be done on the palatal aspect. 3 compartments. Okay, now these lines, imaginary lines, have to be drawn to the midline and the point here onto the front of the midline. Okay, so I'm drawing this line. Here, and the second one to the midline on the palatal aspect. Okay, can you see those lines? Yes. Now these are the X's. This is on the palatal aspect. Beyond this line we have to reduce to make it a tent shape. So I'm going to reduce this. Okay, on one side we have reduced it, on the other side, that is on the labial side, we have to recreate it. Okay, so I'm doing it here, but it looks slightly hazy, but you should know what I'm doing, because it's not clearly visible on the camera or the image, so I have to do it directly seeing the wax block. I think hopefully you are getting the idea what I'm trying to do. The labial surface is usually convex. The lingual surface is concave, like central incisor. But the size is smaller compared to the central incisor. Okay. So this is the final thing. Yet we have to reduce these 2 areas to adjust to the labio-palatal width. Okay, so we're going to cut it straight vertically and adjust the measurements. Now I'm going to draw 2 lines here. Though the height of contour will be pushed, this is the height of contour. Okay, you can see the bend in the surface. If I draw this line, it will be shifted towards the middle third. Right? It will be shifted towards the middle third. But after you cut this part, you have to bring it back or adjust it back to this line. This line. Okay? So make sure you adjust this to the line. I'm marking these 2 vertical lines. Can you see that? Yes. What we have to do is we have to reduce it. Reduce the excess and adjust the size of the lateral incisor labio-palatally. Okay, I have done this. I'll show you the mistake in it and how to correct it. this is what we get. The height of contour, which was at the cervical third region here. Can you see the line? The line is here. This is the line. Where is it? It's not visible. This is the cervical third line. Okay, now it has been shifted to the middle third. So what we have to do is we have to reshape it back to these lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it from here. Now, this is the final thing what you get. Okay, let's compare this with the diagram. Can you see there is a slight curvature? I have already done it. Okay, so you can see the exact picture. It is tent shaped. Now let us go to the third one. The third one is to create the convexity on the labial surface and concavity here above the cingulum area or the height of contour area. You have to create a concavity here, just like central incisor. So we are going to mark a C-shaped curve to the midline here. From here to here. Okay, this much of width of the incisal edge is required. Okay, so don't make it sharp here. So that width should not be disturbed. So you create a C-shaped marking here on the palatal side, joining the height of contour to the midline on the mesial side. So can you see that curvature? Yes. Use the scoop. Okay, I'll take another instrument. Not well prepared, but yet I'm doing it. Anyway, so this is the C-shape concavity we need to create. So I'm using this part of the instrument to create the concavity, this part, the curved part. Okay, so place it in the center here between this distance to the incisal edge and scrape off wax. Slowly, slice by slice, you reduce it till you reach that line uniformly on both the sides. So that's almost done. Okay, so this is the final thing what you see. There's a small concavity here. Look at the labial surface, it is convex. Okay, when you polish this, it will become convex and concave surfaces, properly polished. Okay, so right now we will not polish this. So we'll try to create the lingual aspect in the next step, as well as how to reduce the mesial and distal surfaces by width, which when compared to the labial aspect, it should be less. I mean to say, the mesial surface and distal surface should not be visible when you see from the labial aspect. Now, this is the labial aspect. If you move a little bit, you can see the surface on the right side, right? That is either mesial or distal surface. So now they are parallel. Can you see? They are parallel. So what we do is, first thing, we're going to draw a line from here. Don't cut the incisal edge, just below the incisal edge you mark these lines onto the palatal aspect. Okay, like this. So this is how you have to mark the surfaces. Now next step is you have to cut this. Cut it vertically like this. Can you see? It is slightly going inside, inward cut. Okay, so you do it same on the other side. You will reduce the mesial and distal surface width onto the lingual side or palatal side. Can you see? They are almost to converge onto the palatal aspect, right? So the mesiodistal width on the labial aspect is larger compared to the palatal aspect. Palatal aspect, it goes narrow. Okay, check the measurements accordingly, you mark it. So the next step is to create the incisal edge. Okay, now in case of central incisor, the incisal edge is almost like this, horizontal to the floor. Okay, and coming to the mesial aspect, this is mesial, yes, this is mesial aspect. The mesio-incisal angle was sharp, okay, almost close to 90 degrees, almost close to 90 degrees, right? On the distal aspect, there was more convexity. The disto-incisal angle was rounded, but here as well, the features are same, but it is about the angulations. On the mesio-incisal angle, it is again sharp, but this angulation on the mesial side, it is not exactly at very close to the 90 degrees. It is slightly acute, like this. Okay, slightly acute. That means it goes towards the tooth. Slightly like this. The curvature goes like this. Okay. On the distal surface, it is convex. Disto-incisal angle is also rounded. It is more rounded compared to the central incisor. And the one more thing is the incisal edge is going to be slightly raised from the mesial aspect. Just go with the instrument line. So it will be slightly raised like this towards the distal side. It won't be horizontal enough. It will be slightly oblique. Okay, that is the line. So we'll mark that line, round off the incisal edges, the mesial disto-incisal angle, give inclinations to the mesial surface and distal surface to make it more convex and inclined. Okay, so what I'm doing is, first I'm giving a inclination to the mesial side, little more inclination. So you cut inwardly, slice by slice, but don't touch the mesio-incisal angle. So now you can see that this is more angulated compared to this. Okay, now what we do is we are going to cut the incisal edge now. I'm going to mark this line. Carefully observe, I'm not touching the mesio-incisal angle, but I'm yet drawing a line which goes up towards the distal surface. Can you see that? So now keep the instrument there and chop it. Now you can see it is not horizontal. It has moved slightly up, right? Now the mesio-incisal angle will be slightly sharp compared to disto-incisal angle. So we'll round off the disto-incisal angle. Cut the disto-incisal angle slightly. It should be more rounded compared to central incisor. Can you see that? Can you see that? More inclined, incisal edge is inclined towards the distal aspect. It is slightly raised. As I keep like this, it is raised, it is not horizontal. Okay, and mesio-incisal angle here, this is sharp compared to disto-incisal angle, which is more rounded. The mesial surface is angulated, it is falling on the distal aspect, it is moving towards the distal aspect like this, and the distal surface is more convex. Okay, so what we do is, on the distal aspect, we want to reduce from the cervical third region here. A little bit has to be reduced so that you create a curvature. Can you see the curvature now? Yes, I think the incisal edge needs to be raised a little bit high. So I'm going to reduce the incisal edge. Okay, now it is fine. Can you see that? So that is the inclinations what we give on the incisal edge, mesial surface, and the convexity on the distal surfaces. Now we'll go to the palatal aspect. Now in the palatal aspect, just like central incisor, you created a W shape, right? So what did we mean by W shape? There is mesial marginal, distal marginal ridge, mesial marginal ridge, incisal ridge, okay? And there was a lingual ridge as well. So 4 ridges were there on the palatal aspect. But in case of lateral incisor, only 3 are there: distal, mesial marginal ridge, and incisal ridge. Now what is present at the cingulum area? You have 2 shapes. One is V shape like this. Second is a fissure. So the wall comes here, the ridge comes here, and there is a ridge, a fissure, a gap in between the ridge and the lingual surface. There are no ridges in the lingual surface. It is plain. Okay? So that's what we are going to create now. Now I'm going to mark these lines. Let us check the picture. So that's the 4th one. The ultimate result is something like this. Now coming to the 5th one. So just now I explained. Can you see the dotted lines here? You should draw it parallel to the outer surface of the tooth. And here we have a small V shape. Okay? So in this picture, the resultant picture, you can clearly make out the marginal ridges. There are only 3 marginal ridges, and you have V shape at the cingulum area. Okay? Instead, you can create a complete curvature like this and create a small, a fissure or a gap between the lingual surface and the ridge here, or the cingulum. Okay? So that's how you have to remember. But right now we'll concentrate only on the V shape here. So we have to draw these lines. So in this, you can clearly make out there's a V shape. It's not focused. Can you see? There's a labial ridge. Okay, there's a mesial marginal ridge, there's a distal marginal ridge, and these are the lines we have created. This is the V shape. This is the V. Okay, so just about this height of contour, you have to finish the V shape. Okay? So now what we do is the central area between the lines that has to be scooped out just like central incisor. So I'll just scoop it out. Can you see the V shape here? Okay, now we have a gross cut everywhere. Everywhere it is sharp. Can you see the angulations? It is sharp. At this point, it is sharp. Okay, all these have to be rounded off. If you see the labial surface again, why it is not clearing up? This is sharp. The mesiolabial angle, distolabial angle is sharp. The labial surface should be convex. There is no diagram for that, but I'm telling you. So I'm going to round off these angulations. Okay. To round off these angulations, so what I'm doing is I'm just scraping along that sharp line. Twist your carving while you are rounding off so that you can scrape it uniformly and make it convex. Okay, that is one part. I'm rounding off on the other part. I think I need somebody to hold the camera perfectly. Let's see, because I have to keep on moving my hands so it won't be focused. Okay, that is one part. Okay, so I have rounded off these two angles. Now you can see that it was flat before, now it is slightly convex. Can you see the convexity? It is drooping down, right? The slope is going down, right? The same thing has to be created on the palatal aspect. Can you see the two sharp points? Sorry. Points. So these have to be rounded off like this.
Sir?
Yep.
उसको रोटेशन चेंज कर दीजिए ना, नहीं तो वीडियो वैसे आएगा सर मोबाइल वाला, फिर लैपटॉप में देखने में खराब लगेगा आपको।
रोटेशन मतलब
जस्ट लाइक ये वाला, ये एंगल लीजिए सर, नहीं तो ये मोबाइल वाला वीडियो ही बन जाएगा ओनली। साउंड रिकॉर्डेड हो रहा है ना सर?
हाँ,
तो फिर तो दिक्कत होगी ना।
कोई बात नहीं, चल देंगे।
रोटेशन ऐसे
डूइंग इट फर्स्ट टाइम।
सर रोटेशन ऐसा रहेगा ना तो पूरा स्क्रीन, लैपटॉप भी पूरा स्क्रीन सारे कुछ, नहीं तो मोबाइल वाला वीडियो बन जाएगा ऐसे वाला सिर्फ सर, तो फिर दिक्कत होगा आपको, या तो कंप्यूटर से रोटेशन करना पड़ेगा आपको दोबारा। इसलिए मैं कह रहा था
चलो चलो कोई बात नहीं।
फॉर एग्जाम्पल यूट्यूब सब में डालना है सर इसको ना, तो ये वाला साइज बहुत अच्छा लगा।
Okay. So this is it. So you can see that the label surface looks rounded all over. Okay. So once you polish, you will get a round surface. On the lingual aspect as well, it was sharp before. Now you can see that it is rounded. Okay. So this is the final step, what you do in the crown. So you have a lingual fossa, large lingual fossa with a V-shaped, at the cingulum area. I'm unable to focus it. Okay, V-shape at the cingulum area. You have mesial marginal ridge, you have distal marginal ridge, you have labial ridge. Okay, so if you polish that, you will get a proper anatomy. I'll show it after polishing. Okay, next step is so this is the final step what you get. This is the 6th and this is the 7th step. Okay, this is how it should be. And we'll start with the root. So for the root, I think I draw. Yeah, this is the 6th and 7th. You need to apply these steps. So I'm keeping it exactly here. You can make out this is the line where my finger is, which is for the base, and this is for the root. And then you draw parallel lines from this area. Okay, from this area. Can you see the 2 points here on either sides? The same thing has to be created on the palatal aspect as well. So you draw parallel lines to these points vertically like this, and one more line from here. Like this. So that is how you have to reduce. Okay, we have drawn parallel lines here. The same parallel lines you can draw on the opposite side, that is palatal side. Okay, I'll draw it and show you. And you have to reduce in the same way on the mesial and distal surfaces as well. Okay, so this you extend along the width of the crown at the cement to enamel junction. Mark 2 points. Can you see those points? 2 points हैं यहाँ पे और यहाँ पे. You just have to pass the instrument like this. Okay, and you get these 2 points. You draw parallel lines to it. Draw parallel lines. So this is on the palatal aspect, this is on the labial aspect. We're going to reduce it vertically. Okay, all this has to be reduced. The whole thing has to be reduced on the mesial and distal surfaces. Okay, so I'll finish that and show it to you. Compare it with the diagram. You'll get an idea how to do it. I need to make it fast because I don't have charge in my phone. So reduce it till you reach that line. It is not compulsion that you make a flat surface. Go according to the lines or points you have drawn, and that will be the surface of the root on that side. Something like this. Can you see the line here? And see the width. It is not crossing the maximum, the lowest width of the crown. That is at the CJ. Okay, so it is in line with that. So you have to reduce from the other side as well. So I'll just finish it in 2 minutes and then let you know कि है क्या. Okay, so on both the sides it has been reduced. Okay, likewise you have to turn the block. Can you see the excess here beyond the width of the crown, right? So there again you pass the instrument like this from here and pass it on to the other side, from here till the other side. Okay, so that is the excess. I'll show it. Can you see? This much is the excess. This is the excess on the palatal side. So we'll draw parallel lines here. It's very simple to create the root. I have just made it into a step. Okay, so don't worry, it's easy. First you try to understand what we are doing. Can you see those lines? Again, we need to reduce the excess till that line. So unable to focus this for you, what I'm trying to do, you are unable to visualize. But anyway, I'll show you the final step. It's not clear. Okay, this is on the labial side. Can you see? I have reduced this much. On the lingual side, along the line, I have to cut this much part. Okay, so I'm cutting it. Okay, can you see? Slightly bunched, but we can reduce this later. Okay, so on the labial side, lingual side, it has been reduced. On the mesial side and distal side, it has been reduced. Okay, you get 4 sharp edges. 1, 2, on the parallel side 3 and 4. Okay, so that needs to be rounded like your crown in the same shape. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm passing on the instrument over the sharp edges. Now it looks slightly rounded on all the sides. Can you see? Slightly it is rounded. Okay, so when you polish it, it looks round and smooth. Now coming to the last step. The last step is this. What you have to do with the parallel lines. Can you see the parallel lines here? Okay, so I'm keeping it exactly next to the first step. So you have to reduce from the apical end. Okay, in the first diagram you have to reduce from here. Can you see that? See the arrow? Okay, the labial and parallel surfaces, they are going to converge equally from both the sides. Okay, so that we need to reduce. So I'm going to reduce only from this part. The root thickness should be less in case of lateral incisor, that you make sure. It should not be like central incisor, thick. Okay, it should be thin. I'm going to converge this from the palatal aspect as well. Can you see that convergence? Yeah, a little bit more. Can you see the convergence? Yes? Okay, that is the convergence you need to get on labial and lingual sides. Now compare this with the other diagram. Okay, now it is parallel here on the mesial side. I have kept the tooth oppositely. Okay, this is mesial, so I have to cut it from the opposite side. That is from the mesial side, so that it apparently looks as if the root is deviated towards the distal aspect. Okay, so what I do is, this is the mesial side, and from the middle third I'm going to give a curvature or inward cut. Can you see that? That is the inward cut here. Okay, it's no more parallel, so it looks as if the root is distally tilted. Okay,
इंदर थोड़ा सा कॉटन दे दो
पॉलिशिंग के लिए. I'm trying to round off.
कर दिए हैं ना सर?
हाँ?
नहीं
नहीं कोई बात
ये भी
नहीं.
रिकॉर्ड हो जाएगा.
कोई बात नहीं.
और चाहिए सर? टिश्यू पेपर भी चाहिए आपको?
नहीं. Can you see the deviation in the root? It is going towards the distal aspect. But the distal surface, I have kept it straight. Okay, I have not made any deviations. Okay, so this will be the final step, and we'll polish this and draw the cervical line. So that will finish your lateral incisor carving. Okay, so just a minute, I'll polish it. Okay, this is what is the final stage of the tooth. Can you see? Turning the block. Again, I'm turning the block to the palatal side. This is how it should be. I'm not saying this is perfect because I'm slightly confused whether to look into the camera or look into the carving directly. So slightly there is difference in the carving as usual. It's not so good, okay, but still it's manageable. Okay, the last thing you need to do is draw the curvatures or the cervical line. So you have to follow this curvature on the mesial side. Draw a curvature like this. Okay, the convexity of the curvature should be following the root. It should be towards the root. You can see that curvature right here. You can make out the curvature going like this. It should be in line with the surfaces on the mesial and distal surfaces. As you go towards the distal, the curvature goes down towards the crown, but to lesser extent compared to mesial side. Can you see that curvature? It is going down and then it is moving up towards the palatal aspect. Again, the convexity here on the palatal aspect is facing the root apex. It is facing the root apex. It's not clear here. Can you see that curvature? Okay, now on to the mesial side. Again, the curvature goes down and joins with the labial surface, but the curvature has more curvature onto the mesial side compared to distal. It is more curved and deeper on the mesial side rather than on the distal side. So this is the final step. Okay, you can see the distal aspect, the curvature, and this is the palatal aspect. You can see the convexity towards the root, and as you turn towards the mesial surface, it goes down again. It is much more deeper, okay, compared to distal aspect, and then joins with the curvature on the labial side. So that is the cervical line for the lateral incisor. I'll just polish a little bit so that you can see it properly. Now you can see. Can you see the labial surface? Incisal edge is slightly raised towards the distal aspect. Mesioincisal is not so sharp, but it is sharp. Okay, it is tilted. The crown looks as if it is tilted towards the distal side. Okay. Now coming to the distal aspect and the palatal aspect. You can see the ridges there, and you can see the V shape at the cingulum. Okay, so that is for the demo of lateral incisor. Thank you. Hopefully you find it easier to carve this. Okay, step by step. Something was hazy on the images, but I'll make sure I'll click a photo of all the steps and send it to you. Okay, just go through the diagrams as well as the steps what I have shown in the video. Okay, thank you.